came, he saw, he conquered. Yes, people, that time finally arrived on the season 6 episode finale of The Walking Dead. I'm holding in my hands issue number 100, which features a black cover with Lucille on the cover. One of, I think, maybe 100 that was printed up across the country. And this is the comic that last night's episode was based on. So, yeah, I'm not going to give away any spoilers in this portion, but man, let me just say that as grisly as The Walking Dead can be in terms of the zombies and as scary as the zombies can be, last night's episode proved that humans are far more frightening than any zombie could ever be, because humans can think, they can plan, they can strategize, as opposed to zombies which just lumber ahead. We saw that with the Saviors. We saw them hem Rick and company up on multiple occasions. Rick tried to use diplomacy, but the Saviors weren't hearing it, and the Saviors had a plan. The episode didn't really have a lot of action. It was a slow burn, but the suspense was just off the charts completely. I would hazard to guess that this was probably one of the best episodes of the series in terms of just building a certain storyline when you know that it's going to lead to something that's probably not going to be too good, and your skin is just crawling and your blood is just, your heart's just pumping, racing, waiting for what you know, particularly if you read the comics, what you know is going to be the inevitable conclusion. Basically, last night's episode was broken up into two plots. You had Rick and company trying to outsmart the Saviors, and ultimately we see how that goes to the end of the story. The subplot involved Morgan and Carol. As you remember from last episode, Carol runs off. Morgan and Rick go to find her. Morgan sends Rick back home, and Morgan goes to find Carol. Now, these were some pretty gripping scenes as well, but to me, Morgan needs to make up his damn mind. What type of person does he want to be? Does he want to be the person who thinks that all life is precious no matter what? Or is he going to be the type of person that says all life is precious, but then he moves the goalposts when it's convenient for him? We saw a little bit of that in Carol as well. Carol, although she's a cold-blooded killer at this point, which may be necessary in this apocalypse, she's kind of wavered between being sort of unsure of herself and unsure of her place and her actions. But, I'm thinking that, I can cut you some slack. You got zombies and mad people running around. So this theme of good or bad, or what type of person, are we losing our humanity? The writers need to have these characters commit to who they're going to be in this brand new world. The producers managed to ratchet up the suspense factor brilliantly by adding a pregnant and obviously ailing Maggie into the mix. That just made it even more heart-wrenching to see her going through that. You got Abraham, who's apparently hooked up with Sasha, and now he's done a complete 180, and he basically says to her he's ready to have children in this horrible, horrible wasteland. And we all know that when people profess some sort of positivity in this world, it doesn't end well for them. But the most gut-wrenching character in this episode undoubtedly was Rick. Rick starts the episode off confident, somewhat barking orders to the Saviors, telling them this is how it's going to go down, this is not going to work for us, feeling pretty good about himself. But as the episode progresses, we slowly see Rick losing control of the situation as the Saviors thwart him at every turn. And it's that slow build that was just so hard to sit through. I had the fortune of watching this at Amalgam Comics here in Philadelphia. It was awesome, and it was a group session, man. It was like we were all laughing at the same time. We were all gasping at the same time. We were all groaning at the same time. But all of us could see, we all shared this thing where we could see Rick's eyes, and kudos to Andrew Lincoln for the acting job he put on last night. He makes it clear that he goes from confident to just completely losing all control of the situation, and you see it in his eyes. What's interesting about that is If you contrast Rick's expression or Rick's composure throughout the story to Carl, we see that Carl has crossed the threshold. Carl is looking death straight in the eye, and he's like, what do you got for me? So I really like that combination of Rick, who seems like he's hanging on by a thread, and Carl basically saying, what's good? And unless you haven't seen any of the trailers, this is not a spoiler either. We are introduced to Negan finally in this episode. And let me just say this. When I first heard that Jeffrey Dean Morgan was cast as Negan, I thought of his portrayal of the comedian in Watchmen, and I thought, well, I guess I see it, but he's kind of thin, kind of lightweight compared to the Negan of the comics. So I was a little concerned that he could pull it off. Let me just say, the first minute he appears on screen and goes into his monologue, dude, I tip my hat to you. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, you got it down. Incredible job. That was probably the most intense 20 minutes of TV I've seen in, I don't know. I tell you what, it's probably the most intense scene I've seen with just people talking since the scene in, if you remember the film No Country for Old Men with Javier Bardem as Anton Sugar in the gas station, speaking to the attending. Even though I knew what was going to happen because I'm an avid reader of the books, this scene kept me and all the people that were watching at the comic book shop, we were on the edge of our seats. White knuckle grip, and as you can see, that's not too easy for me. But man, kudos to the producers, the writers, Jeffrey Dean, everyone involved. An excellent way to cap off the season. And if you like what you see, please subscribe.